Hallo Leute, ich bin Katja und ihr seht Deutsch für euch. It's time for some grammar again! Woo! Specifically, word groups. First of all, words are divided into two groups, flexional and non-flexional, so changeable and not changeable. So in other words, flexional words are changed according to the function they have in a sentence, while non-flexional words always stay the way they are. Nouns, verbs, adjectives, articles, and pronouns are all flexional. Adverbs, particles, prepositions, and conjunctions are not. Let's start off with the nouns. We call them Nomen or Substantive. The special thing about German nouns is that they're all spelled with a capital first letter. No exceptions. Also, like we already learned, like in English, they come in 3 genders and they are accompanied by articles. Check out the episode from 2 weeks ago for more information on genders. Nouns are put through what we call Fälle or Deklinationen, so cases or declinations. That means that depending on their function in a sentence, their form changes. Verbs. We call them Verben. Verbs are conjugated depending on the tense and the personal pronoun they're combined with. Nummer 3. Adjectives, or as we say, Adjektive. Like in English, these are attributes combined with nouns. They are declinated to fit the case of the noun they go with, and also they are comparable, which means that there's 3 different forms of every adjective, like in English. So for example, big, bigger, the biggest. Articles. Partikel. I already talked about these little fellows 2 weeks ago, so if you missed that, check this out. There are 2 groups of articles, definite and indefinite. Like nouns and adjectives, they can be declinated and are therefore made to fit the gender and the case of the noun they go with. Pronouns. Pronomen. Most of these can also be declinated, and like in English, they are either combined with nouns or in some instances can replace them. Also like in English, when combined with a noun, they always stand in front of it. For example, this is my hat. It's mine. Adverbs. Adverbien und Adverbiale. The problem with this term is that it stands for 2 different things. Like in English, these are attributes combined with verbs, so the same thing that adjectives are for nouns. They cannot be declinated like adjectives because they're not combined with nouns, but they are comparable. This makes them part of the flexional word groups. To avoid confusion with the second group, these adverbien officially belong with the adjectives and are also called Adverbialen. There are more grammatical terms to differentiate between the different uses of adjectives and adverbs, but we'll leave those aside for now. The second group of adverbien is non-flexional and contains such words as there, maybe, together, words that give a sentence sometimes necessary and sometimes unnecessary details. Particles. Partikeln. Particle man, particle man. Particles can be pretty much anything that doesn't fit in with any of the other groups. So even a word like whoops is a particle. They don't go without other words except for in colloquial speech. So like, hey, or, those one-word sentences that are just basically like an exclamation of some sort. Those are particles. Those stand alone, but you wouldn't, that's not written language. So normally they do not stand alone. So for example, in a sentence like, I am very hungry, the word very actually only really defines exactly how hungry I am. Without the other words, it would become pointless. Except, of course, in an instant where somebody would ask, how hungry are you? And all I could get out was, very. So normally, particles are not really elements of a sentence per se, but rather parts of elements, at least in formal or written speech. Prepositions. Präpositionen. Same as in English, prepositions, Präpositionen put words into relation with each other. Since they are not real sentence elements, they never appear alone, they're always combined with a noun. They also define the case of the noun. An English example, my cat is in a box. In this sentence, in is connected to the box. In German, this would cause for the box to change cases. Conjunctions. Konjunktionen. Conjunctions can never stand alone because they are not even real elements in a sentence. They just connect sentences, word groups, or even single words. The most common conjunctions are and or. So und, oder. People that study German, especially native English speakers, might get the idea that the sentence structure in German is a lot more variable than in English. That's because in English, the meaning of a sentence is mostly defined by the order of words, whereas in German, it is mostly defined by the relation of all words to each other. What? That means, because we have so many ways to modify words, declinations, conjugations, etc., the function of a word in a sentence often becomes clear through the way it is modified. Therefore, German sentences rely less on the words being in the right order than on whether or not the words are in their right form. But of course, we also have certain rules for the order of words, just like there are certain modifications in English. This episode is just meant as a general guide through the word groups because it can get pretty confusing over time. So I thought it would be helpful to just have a little help for unjumbling, if that word even exists, all the information you get about different word groups over time. The three most important groups are, of course, nouns, verbs, and adjectives, with the latter including adverbs that are connected to verbs. The next video will be put up on Wednesday because I didn't want to leave you with this much dry theory for a whole week without having anything to study up on. And that's it for today. Your random word of the week is Essstäbchen. Stäbchen. Share and subscribe if you like what you see. And if you have any questions or other comments, let me know. Bis nächste Woche. Tschüss!